Tim Washer. So glad to have you here.
Man, it's been a while.
It has.
And my publicist is trying to get me on this show for like 2 years now.
It's been so hard. I know. Such high demand for this podcast.
It is.
Oh my goodness.
It is. But I'm glad to be here.
So glad. Well, I don't know. I will preface all of this by saying that I started this podcast because I selfishly just wanted to talk to more people. And as somebody that like just sits at home all day editing, I don't usually get to do that. And so some of that's just me talking like my wife in our house now on being recorded. But other times, like there's people, I have this long list of people that I've wanted to reach out to and talk to. And you're actually one of the first. There's a long list, but you were like toward the top. Awesome. And it's what I like is that you're not necessarily like in my niche of like you're not a wedding filmmaker. You're not a filmmaker at all. Like you've done some.
But I could be. But I could be with the proper training.
But I would love sort of, I don't know, to start because people I'm sure like who the heck is Tim Washer, at least for I assume some of my audience here and all. But like if you want to sort of go through some of your, I don't know, just brag on yourself for a brief moment.
Absolutely. I am a wedding filmmaker, wedding videographer. Can you put my 800 number up there?
Yeah, please great. Hire him right now. That's great. Yes.
No, I started off doing weddings. Now I do divorces. I film divorce proceedings in the court, which has been inspired by one of your posts, by the way.
Profitable.
So I'm a comedian, I guess you could say. I'm a comedy writer. I took improv years ago. This wasn't my pursuit. I realized it was a calling when I was like 30. And I very reluctantly pursued this, very, very reluctantly. And started taking improv classes. And my improv instructor was Amy Poehler. So that opened up a lot of doors. I ended up getting to write for her on Weekend Update on SNL. Yes. And did a lot of work with Conan O'Brien when he was in New York and on TV. And
he's got a podcast now. That's like all he's doing is podcasting, and it's great. He
does, man. He does. He just had Harrison Ford on last week, and it was pretty funny. Harrison Ford busted his chops pretty good.
I've got him next week too, so it's okay. He's after you. Don't worry. You were still top priority, but Harrison's next.
Could you pick? I would like to be known as the guy who bumped Harrison Ford on your show. Hey man, we ran a little wrong with Washer, so had to let you go.
Sorry. Next time. We'll get you next time. It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
So I still do some stuff occasionally on John Oliver on his show, but I stumbled into a career making comedy videos for corporations, for IBM and Cisco, and I just finished up a couple of projects for some other software companies, and so I do that. I make comedy videos. Like if a company has a product launch coming up or a big announcement, I'll create something funny that they can have for their social channels. And then I also speak at conferences quite a bit, although I'm still hoping waiting for that to pick back up from COVID. It's kind of going slow. Nobody's in a hurry to get 5,000 people in a room.
Nobody enjoyed it initially either. They were just like, we're all stuck here. Okay. Now like, we don't have to bring them back. Oh, we can just keep this going forever. Oh crap. All right.
That's right. I don't say this to brag, but I cleared a lot of rooms out even before COVID. That's where they got the idea. Let's limit it to 10 people, just board 10 people. So, that's what I do. I'm still starting to do I'm starting to do more MC work, which is great. Do you see this coffee mug, by the way?
Oh, look at that! Right there, right down the street from me. There,
right down the street.
A couple miles down the street, but yes, right down.
Okay,
love it. That's great. Oh man,
there's a guy here who works at my local Trader Joe's who's from New Braunfels.
Well, yeah, okay. Where are you at again?
Not really.
I don't even remember where you are.
That's not really a story. I'm in Connecticut.
That's
Danbury,
right.
Connecticut. Yeah,
never been. It's one of those states. It's like. I would say it's one of my least thought about states when I think about like if I was listing them. I'm sorry, but like Massachusetts is higher, like Rhode Island because it's tiny. Connecticut, I completely gloss over it. Like if you gave me a U.S. map right now, no clue where Connecticut is on that part. I know it's like northeast, but I don't know where it is in that group of states.
That's good. It's okay. It's a constitution state, so it's not really that important to the country.
Not to
Don't
insult, just where you live or anything like that right off the bat, but that's
no.
where we're going.
Let's start off. You're going to meet Cagney and Lacey a little bit later. Ask your parents. That's an older reference.
Yeah. You got a couple of those with the 1-800 number too, but that's okay. I've got a lot of my 70-year-old aunt listens to this podcast, so she's going to get all of these references and be really excited.
Hey, could we get her on? Dial her in.
She would be a very interesting topic, actually.
Either today or get her on with Harrison Ford. One of the two.
Yeah. Have her riff with him. She'll do really well, I'm sure.
It's probably better. Probably better.
Man. Okay, so you did comedy writing, and then you found this niche of like, let's do IBM comedy videos and other companies like that, which those are typically very stuffy, huge companies who need help.
Yes, and that which describes me perfectly. And so, the thing is, we did some self-deprecating. The first one we did, actually, it was the first business-to-business comedy video on YouTube. Back in 2006, your aunt was on at that time. I think she had a thriving channel back then, but it blew up because it was self-deprecating humor. It kind of had this office vibe to it, and we surprised people. We got a lot of great press because it kind of helped. I think it was the San Francisco Chronicle wrote, "Hey, this is." This is helping IBM get back to its humbler and gentler personality image that it's working to portray. It's powerful. I mean, people think humor. A lot of people write off humor so quickly, and it really can. It makes all the difference in the world in connecting with people. Yeah, I saw a buddy at church like 2 weeks ago, and he was just trying to get in my pew, and he just made some smart aleck comment, and that was it. And like, move out of the way, washer, or something like that. But I told him, I said, AJ, look, man, a funny joke like that, just a joke that takes like 3 seconds can be a lot more meaningful than a 10-minute conversation with someone at church sometimes. Because you feel that rapport, and you feel like, okay, this guy knows how to connect with me and make me laugh. And I don't know. It's powerful.
I like that. No, that's really good. Cause it's funny. I still have memories of whenever like we first met. Yeah. And you doing these random little quips and stuff, and me being like, oh, that was good. Oh crap. That was good. That was funny. Okay. Oh, cause that was in Dr.
McGee's class, Steve McGee's, his graduate marketing class.
Yes. Which I've never asked, like, I'm so interested in how, for people that are wondering context here, so I was in grad school in 2010 and 2011 for marketing at Texas A&M, and that's how I met Tim initially. Was you were at I don't know how you just showed up one day, like we were doing some like tour of some like company, and they're like, yes. I think Dr. Mack was like, hey, we got this guy. He's going to be like your mentor person. He's here. It's Tim. And I'm like, okay, Tim is here. All right.
Yeah, I think I had to pay for a parking ticket that I still owed to try to get my diploma back and turn in a humanities paper. That's what it was. Yeah, nice. 20 years later. I was there for South by. I was in Texas for South by.
That's right. Okay.
And I keep in touch with Dr. McGee occasionally, and he said, yeah, come on by. So,
and you know what? Like, hey, I've got these students. Do you want to come like talk to them? And you're like, yeah. Okay.
You know who I still keep in touch with? I still keep in touch with a few folks from that class, but Lauren J., you remember her?
Yes. Okay.
Did you know she has this side hustle where she restores dinosaur fossils? I'm not kidding. It's fascinating. She was on the cover of the Houston Chronicle last year. I'll send you the image.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
okay.
I just shared a photo of her holding a megalodon tooth.
Okay.
Why is she not? Bring her on with Harrison Ford.
Clearly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lauren for the megalodon tooth. I'll just have that. That's right. There. Like, what are you doing with fossils now? How did this happen? Because like, it's funny because I'll see like people get invited back to speak to like the master's program, like, and they never asked me back. They're like, that guy was like,
you don't work in fossils. You need to get yourself a fossil gig.
Clearly,
I think Lauren's hiring.
I'm in the wrong thing because like to this day, like they have like this spreadsheet of like, what are people doing now? And mine's just like entrepreneur. They're like, whatever, he's doing something over there. If you want to talk to him, here's his contact. But like, I'm
a creator. Just say I'm a creator.
Yeah.
They didn't really know now.
Where to pigeonhole me when they were figuring out that program. No. But I was like, I'm here. I'm glad to learn things. I'm learning marketing. Granted, a few of the professors were like, those magazines are what's important. And I'm like, I don't know if those are still going to be relevant, sir. The internet is here. But, like it was still like really, really cool and really interesting. And I mean, hey, I got to meet people like you. So that was fun.
You should go back and talk. So wait, let's go back to your wedding. Do I say filmmaker?
Wedding filmmaker, wedding videographer, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
And how about storyteller?
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah. So and then you started this podcast so you could talk to people other than your wife because she wasn't listening.
Yes.
Did I get that right? Did I leave anything out?
1,000% true. Exactly. It's a lot of her like, what? And I'm like, it's cool. It's okay, great. The kids are crying. Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we're settled. Is that it? Or is there another question?
That's it. No, that's everything. That's all I want to talk to you about. Cool. We'll see you soon.
That sounds good. Take care. Peace out. I'll let you know if I get remarried, okay?
Amazing. Would love that. Yes. That'd be so great. I'll do a vow renewal for you too if you want, or something like that.
No, too late for that. Too late. I may need a character witness.
Yes.
Hey, did we mention Green Coffee House, our sponsor?
Moving on, back to Green Coffee House, which I will tell you, I've never had a drink from, but I have used their bathroom. And it's a nice bathroom. So
that's same here. But I found this mug in there. So it
was an empty mug. I just took it off a cup. It's fine. I just took it off a table and ran. Yes. Oh man. Okay. So like, I remember, you were just like, we were in like a rental car or something like that. And you had to like drive to someplace in Austin with us. And I remember you making just like random quips while you were looking out the window and me being like, God, this guy's humor is so good. Like I was just like, and it's dumb. Like it's really just like, I don't know. It's humor that really like vibed with me because that's kind of how I think. And so I was like, man, this is so good. And I love how quick and like just witty Tim is. Like he's always just like throwing stuff out there. And I was like, man, that's good. And then I had if I remember correctly, we went to a restaurant and I ordered an antelope burger.
That's right.
You were very sad that you did not get it.
Oh, that's right.
And you brought it up like consistently in other meetings.
Yes. Yes. Dude, I still talk about that, even though I had forgotten. Yes, because I write, or at the time I was writing a cheeseburger and comedy blog. And so it was about, it was really just an excuse to write off cheeseburgers as a taxable expense. But
that's a good reason.
It was cheeseburger. It's just exploring cheeseburger dives, when I'm like at a comedy festival or something like that. And just giving you something to write up, something to base a story on, that kind of thing. In case the comedy was no good, you could talk about the cheeseburger. Yeah, that's right. How was that? I remember you really rubbed it in, if I remember correctly. You were saying this was probably the best antelope burger I've ever had.
The best and the only. The only, their antelope is a little like they do use the fresh. Okay. Wendy's uses the fresh, never frozen beef. I can tell you that they do freeze the antelope there. So
no, they don't.
It's only the beef that is fresh, never frozen. The antelope, 100% frozen, definitely.
Yeah. I wonder since Dave's left, maybe this is a joke for your aunt, by the way, but since Dave's left, I wonder if they'll go back, but I don't know. Who knows?
Maybe. I don't know. Oh man. He's got family now. The family's still running the business, I think. So it could, it's in the family. Probably. I don't know. Oh man. So I guess for me, like, what I was hoping to, like, if I was going to learn something from Tim, this
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you.
There's nothing to learn. Nothing to learn. But like, okay, you got your start in improv, and then you're under Amy Poehler, which is fantastic. And then I've seen some of your stuff on, like, I saw, like you said, you did some stuff for Conan. I went through your YouTube channel years ago, and I checked again recently, and I was like, oh, he's got some newer things here and all. But like, you were on Colbert back in the day, arguing about like climate change as somebody, weren't you? Isn't that right?
Yeah, you know what? That was John Oliver.
John Oliver? Okay, it was Oliver, not Colbert. Then I'm crazy. Oh, well.
That was Oliver with Bill Nye. I was arguing,
Yes.
I was debating Bill Nye. Yeah.
Freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
I was wanting to ask you about, well, just like as a side there, and all, like, how is Bill Nye? Like, was he a nice guy? Was he cool?
Yes. You get up, you get there on, you just show up on stage, because I guess I was a principal. A principal is you have a certain number of lines. You get labeled a principal versus an extra, I think. And so, but still, regardless of classification, you show up like just before. Yeah. There's no talking beforehand or anything like that.
You don't get the green room. You don't have a writer.
No, that's right. So a principal gets a green room. In this case, I did not have a green room. I showed up, and I was, I think they call it under 5, meaning you have fewer than 5 lines. And so the point I'm making is, I just met him on set. You go and you sit down, and he was incredibly gracious. I was really surprised, and John Oliver is too. But he remembered my name and referred to it. We joked around, and there's a GIF out there. I still say GIF, like your aunt does.
Do it either way. Yes. Thank
you. So, of us doing the wave, of the 3 of us doing the wave, and I mean, he was incredibly gracious. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and just a down to earth guy. And I saw him at probably a year later, I saw him at the Shorty Awards, and I'm in New York, and I'm walking by, and I just kind of said hi, waved at him, and he said, "Hey, Tim." And I was like, oh my gosh, that really, if somebody's going to remember your name, first of all, if somebody like that, a celebrity, asks for your name and then calls you out during the shoot and stuff, that impresses me. It's like, okay, this is a guy who doesn't just come in and get the paycheck and get out of there. But then to remember that later, I was really surprised. So he's a super good guy. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And John Oliver was cool too, you said?
Oh my gosh, man. Yes. Really, really. Yeah. He was just really gracious. And what's weird is a lot of the people, so many comedy writers that I've met, like on Conan, they are the nicest guys. Now, Conan's a perfectionist. He really wants to get it right. So the bar is high there. And so you would describe him more of someone who really wants to get it right. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But,
I get that.
But the writers were just so friendly. I mean, I remember the first time going in there, it said 30 Rock is where all those studios are for NBC. SNL's in there. And I was so nervous, and they were just incredibly well. I mean, they were just like, "Hey, you're part of the team," kind of thing, and they'll take your ideas. They'll play. I mean, they're pretty confident in what they've written, but not cocky. I don't mean that at all.
Yeah.
But they will, they'll invite you to improvise and things like that on these short sketches. Yeah, a great group of people.
That's super cool. So I guess this also ties back into, like, I don't know, like I said, if there was one thing I could learn from you or something like that, or like, I don't know, I've always, like I said, I've appreciated your humor. And especially, I feel like in the context of it being in, like, you have to make corporate stuffy America funny in ways, and like try to find ways to make that entertaining. And I mean, I guess for me, like, I'm usually making things like I'm reviewing a camera, or I'm reviewing like something boring, and I'm like,
yes,
how do I make this entertaining? How do I make this fun? And so, if I was gonna be like, Tim, teach me how to be funnier, that was basically like my dream of this podcast. But if you had like any sort of advice, because I said this is just for me here. I don't care what the other people listening to this thing care about. I just want to learn from me.
Matt, that's the key. And in comedy, that's the key. A good buddy of mine, when I was at IBM, George Faulkner, he told me, I remember him saying, man, the key is just like David Letterman, you just make yourself laugh. And it's so true, because you can very easily, in a big corporate, in some corporate cultures, especially if you work at the higher level with the executives and whatnot, where you have to get approval, they can get, there's a lot of fear in some places, unfortunately. And that's not good for comedy at all.
Yeah.
But if you forget about that and trying to please people and just say, all right, I think this is hysterical. And you still have to do this dance with like the brand team. There's a team of people that, approve everything and make sure, well, this is in our corporate voice. I've had the conversation many times. It's like, well, but this is a comedy. So we're humanizing the brand here a little bit more, but it's going to sound different. Yeah. But like at IBM, this guy I worked with, who was running, he was a chief communications officer at the time, John Awada. I mean, a genius in communications. And he had said, you know what? Because people were worried he may not like the comedy. So, wit has always been a part of IBM's brand since the beginning. Definitely. And, when you're clever and you're being witty, all of those attributes are associated with intelligence. But then humor, the humor piece is, intelligence is fine. That can be impressive. But doing it with humor, you're showing that you are intelligent. I think also when you do self-deprecating humor right, you're showing that you're quite confident and comfortable with who you are and who the brand is. I remember getting a lot of feedback from people saying, we can't, why is IBM even doing this? We're making fun of ourselves. And we were actually making fun of salespeople and what they do. And, but it shows a certain confidence when you're willing to be self-deprecating, and it really invites people into the conversation that way. So I think the most important thing is being true to yourself and finding your comedy. And you may have to tweak things a bit as you move through it. But the best place to start. So one thing, look, let me go. I'm going to go to a follow-up conversation about that car ride. But the best place to start is your pain points, your pet peeve. Figure out one pet peeve that drives you crazy, like something about Zoom calls, maybe, or something like that, or a pet peeve with, if you have a spouse, partner, whatever. Maybe you don't want to share this with them, probably, but think about that pet peeve, because in those intimate relationships, right, the stakes are higher and it matters more to you. And so that sometimes that can be a good place to look. And also there can be healing. There can be a lot of healing through comedy. Like if one thing just drives you crazy, like, you got your wife, not your wife, but a wife sucks her teeth. Let's flip it. Let's say the husband sucks his teeth. That drives it crazy. If the wife can communicate in a funny way to him about that, it stops being something that's just a nagging irritation, and it brings a little more joy into that conversation about something that she needs to see changed. So, but anyway, the point, like I do this with my son, he always, when he was a kid, I mean, he used to stand really close to the TV. And so I tell him a couple of times, Matthew, don't stand so close to the TV. It's not good for you. But he'd always forget, and he'd keep doing that. And so for me to just keep repeating it's an annoyance and it's nagging, but I can still get the information off by saying, get information to him, remind him of that by saying, Matthew, do you think you could stand a little closer to the TV? Or stand on the other side. Now I'm using sarcasm, which that's his love language. He loves sarcasm.
Your son loves sarcasm?
Believe it or not. I don't know where he got it. Don't know where he got it. And he's funnier than me. I don't want to talk about that right now.
Well, if we need to get him on, then we can push.
You should have him on.
We'll just rotate him in.
He would love to be on with Harrison Ford, and he'd be a lot more funny.
Perfect.
But the thing is, now you're considering the relationship. I'm considering this relationship with Matthew. It's like, okay, look, I still got to get this information across to him, but let me do it in a fun way. Yeah. Versus just saying the same thing. So think of your pet peeve. I would write down a specific event when you really got irritated. And the thing about that, Matt, is when you get mad, all of your pretense falls away, and you start really being honest with everybody. So that's what anger will do for you.
That's
but
good,
in that, there's so much comedy and pain. And so start there, write your pet peeve, write down a specific issue, and then heighten things. From there, heighten things. Just exaggerate things to the nth degree and see where that takes you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. I feel like I've gotten like some parenting advice out of this too, which is really good. Did not expect that today, but great.
You're welcome.
Sign me
You're
up.
Welcome. Another thing I said to Matthew, he has this computer table, this big computer table in the den, and he'll go get a drink and then bring his little mug over there. It's a coffee house mug, by the way, our sponsors for today.
That's all you have, right? You only have like 10 of those.
Yeah,
you've converted the entire house just to green coffee house mugs. Is my understanding?
Dude, if you knew what it was like to live outside of Texas, you would understand, my friend. You'd like a little piece of Texas in every room. So if you break one, you can do that. So Matthew will get a mug out and he'll put it over there on the table, and he'll repeat this process, throughout the week. And so by the end of the week, we got like 15 mugs over there. And instead of griping about that, I just said to him, okay, I figured out that you're not a big fan of having the mugs stored in the cabinet. So you want to relocate them over here. And he laughed. So it made it a positive interaction. But again, it still got my point across. It also makes it a little more memorable when you add comedy to it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
You had mentioned going back to
the
our car ride.
Yes. I didn't want to dominate the conversation. I'm sorry. I get excited when I talk about
This is why you're
comedy.
Here, to dominate the conversation.
That's
what I'm going to intro this podcast. Like, hey, it's me, joined by my friend Tim here. He's going to dominate this thing. And I'm like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it. Here it comes.
Sit tight, enjoy the ride. When we were going to that drive, I think was from campus to it was some river, Red River. I don't know what it was. That was the name of the restaurant. Something River Gorge.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I think we were joking. I think it was, first of all, I think we had this connection because our humor is both silly and can be juvenile at times. And
my wife will say that. She would agree with you. Yes. Okay.
All right. So, but like the thing, when I I used to write monologue jokes for Letterman, and that's what he liked. He liked the kind of the juxtaposition of intelligence and just silly. He'd like to combine those two things. And that was his sweet spot. That's what he loved. So some people might think, well, a silly joke is not going to work in the corporate world, but it does. People love that stuff. They love that stuff. And it just needs to be, you need to wrap it around in a clever, it needs to be clever, it does. And it needs to be, not necessarily stupid, but silly works really well. Really well. Everybody likes, I think it kind of takes you back when you hear a joke that's silly. It takes you back to your childhood. Like let me give you an example. I did something for a library up here in Connecticut. Do you know where Connecticut is? You've heard of Connecticut, right?
I've heard of it. Yes. I could not name it.
But you can't be bothered.
I could spell it, but that's it.
The abbreviation is CT. I'm going to save you some time there.
Perfect.
So, I think we had our congresswoman there at the event. She was going to be at the event for this library.
At the library. All right.
At the library. So it was a gala, fundraiser for the. And so what I said, okay, before we get started, just some house cleaning. I love starting off with some housekeeping items. Just some housekeeping items. We got a few overdue books that I need to collect. And I said, is Congresswoman, let's call her McCluffkin, is she here? Yeah. And then I click and this book comes up. It's a book cover and it has that guy. It says like how a bill becomes a law, and it has that cartoon character
Yes.
from
Yeah.
ABC's
Schoolhouse Rock back in the day. Yeah, I got you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I grew up watching those. Yes.
Okay, we're not that far off, you and me. We're not that different. We can
Very
find
close.
we can
It's a
find
few
some ground
decades
to agree
apart
on.
in age.
Yes. So that's right. That's right. So that's silly. That was a silly joke. It had a cartoon on there, but man, it crushed. People loved it. And I think part of it is because you go back to something that you remember from a fun age. That's part of it. I think there's joy in remembering that. And but that's an example of how you can still be silly in a corporate event, and it works. Yeah. So silly. I think people need to embrace that. I think when people when they start out thinking, how can I be funny? One thing is they look at their, comedic heroes and maybe try to be like him or her. And that's fine. There's good stuff to learn. But, as you said, don't get away from the stuff that makes you laugh, because that's where you're really going to have, you're really going to have success. That's where your voice is. It takes a while to find your voice. But again, that little exercise of starting what makes you irritated is a great place to start and trying to figure out your voice and your point of view.
I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I'd watch like a comedian and then be like, well, there's my personality type now. I'll just make jokes like they do. But then it just doesn't work. And it has to be like from you. And it took me many years to figure that out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still feel like, I don't know, I would love, it's intimidating, but I love the thought of doing like stand up one day or doing improv or something like that. And I know that just would be me like joining an improv group or something like that probably, but I don't know. What are your recommendations for me?
I'd like to tell your millions of listeners right now, they should all go take an improv class, and not at the same place at the same time, because there's a limit of maybe 12 in a class. But man, improv, first of all, brace yourself, because it will be scary. I mean, I really, no exaggeration, I almost walked out of my first improv class. I was really, I was so anxious and didn't want to be embarrassed. And that brings to, let me go take an improv class. Also take a stand-up class, but make sure it's a good, it's kind of a writing based class where you'll go in there and say, okay, we're going to teach you how to write material. And by the end of the whatever, 4 or 6 weeks, you're going to have a tight 5-minute set. In comedy, they call it your tight 5. Stand-up comedians say you got a tight 5. That means a tight set that's going to make a lot of people laugh, and there's not too much wandering. And if you want to do that, go to a stand-up club and say, look, make sure you're going to end up, well, we're going to teach you kind of how to be funny. Nope. You want a place where you're going to walk out there at the end of the program with a tight 5. And you'll still have some work to do, but and many of them will let you. They'll have almost all of them will have a performance night. So they take everybody through, and then there's a performance night the last night. And that's the thing about that is it's going to be a very supportive crowd.
Yeah,
because everybody invites their friends and family, and people know, okay, I'm going to go laugh at stuff, whether I want to or not.
All these people are new. Hopefully they'll be funny, but we'll all cheer regardless.
And that's right. And it's not the best night of entertainment for sure. Yeah. But listen, another key piece. I think that one of the most important pieces, both in life but also in improv, there's this principle there's this principle that says silence your inner critic. And that it's just that idea of once you, like, particularly if you're on stage and you're improvising, you may have an idea like, okay, I'm an astronaut now. And then right after you have that idea, your mind's going to tell you that's a dumb idea. You will have these thoughts. The doubt comes in, just like with everything we do in life. And first of all, you use that doubt kind of as a meter, kind of as a guide, because once you start doubting an idea, that typically means you're onto something. And I mean, we also have this other principle called follow the fear. in
Okay.
improv. The founder of long form improv, a guy named Del Close, came up with this philosophy. And that's if you have an idea that scares the heck out of you, if you come, like when you come out and initiate, like, hey, let's go get an antelope burger. That's the first thing you'll say to me. Okay. That's your initiation.
Yeah.
And I'll have 5 or 6 different responses that come to mind. And one of those responses, one could be, first of all, I'm deciding who I am. I'm actually discovering who I am. I could be, you think about status. I could be your boss, or I could be a client, or I could be somebody who owns a restaurant and you're taking me to my restaurant, so I will pay for you, which rings true, doesn't it, Matt?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So let's, because I think I picked up that tab. No, Texas A&M did.
No, A&M better paid for that.
Who did?
I think they paid for that. I hope they
did.
did.
A&M. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Okay. If not,
they did.
If I owe you money, let me know and I can. Yeah.
That's the reason. That's the reason I accepted this invitation is to get this out in the air. Am I redlining
owe
a
me
bit?
$35. It's okay.
Yes. Let's get that synced up. I'm gonna give you my
sound
Venmo.
good to me.
Okay. What were we talking about? We went from follow the fear to follow the fear. Mm-hmm. Your initiation. You and I step out on stage together at the same time. You say, "Let's go grab an antelope burger," and I'll have these responses, and one of them will scare me to death. And Del Close says, "That's the obligation. You have an obligation to that." You have, and Del Close says the reason that scares you is because it's new material. It's a new frontier that you haven't covered yet, and because it's a new frontier, it's going to yield, the most beautiful art in improv, in the improv work. So, but I do that like if I remember when I was still working, the IBM job, when I interviewed at IBM, that job scared the heck out of me. I was like, I'm not qualified for this. And Matt, now if something comes up, an opportunity comes up and I'm hesitant, I'll look at that and I'll say, if I'm hesitant because I feel I'm underqualified, then I say yes without thinking. I just say, okay, I got to do this. And it's worked out. I mean, it's always been the best. My best work has always come from those opportunities. And, there's still things like, well, the guy's a former convict and he's still in Alcatraz. Don't take that job. Don't take it.
Maybe not. Yeah.
No, but if there's something in life that comes your way and you're thinking, man, I don't know if I'm good enough for this. You are good enough, and it's scaring you because you're going to be brilliant at it. So, okay.
Man,
that's my comedy lesson.
That's super, super helpful. That's great. That's exactly what I wanted from you. So this is wonderful.
Okay. Yay.
Is there just sort of like to put a bonnet on it, whatever they say at the end, put a bow on it? That's it. Yeah.
Or a headlock, half Nelson.
Put a headlock on it and all. Is there any books that you would recommend or other further material? Because like after, this is the quick Tim Washer school, but if I want to go more advanced than just hearing you in front of like a room that was decorated by your children in the background, just something. Or that could be your art in the background. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I don't appreciate that, man. That hurts. That cuts deep. I spend a lot of time on that artwork.
If you cannot see if you're not watching the video version, there's a chalkboard wall behind Tim with the word Shark Week coming out of his, I believe it's his left ear. So it's great.
That is my left ear. Very good. That's right. So there is for improv, there's a wonderful book called Truth in Comedy. Truth, I-N, comedy. Truth in Comedy. And it's a brilliant book. It's a brilliant book. I like you
spelled in. That was good.
Yeah, thank you.
Helpful.
Well,
just in. Okay.
People, yes, it's not just in. It's not and. Okay. I have an enunciation problem. Okay.
I wasn't going to mention it in the video, and I didn't want to call you out, but it's okay. I married a woman from East Texas. There's some enunciation. Yeah.
Where's you from?
Nacogdoches. You're right.
Are you serious? Yeah.
How do you know where my wife lives? This is getting weird.
Son, I grew up in the Golden Triangle. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. I lived in, my dad's a preacher and we moved because he went to go preach at a church in Beaumont, Texas.
And there's Beaumont.
Yeah, that's
basically all. Louisiana.
That's right. Yes. Okay. So you understand why you need to be clear. I'm not saying but anyway.
I get it. No, I totally get it. I filmed a few weddings out there in Beaumont. Yes.
Truth and comedy. And that's for improv and also just life. It's such a good book. And then for stand-up, I read this years ago, and it was a really good stand-up book. It was called Zen and the Art of Stand-Up Comedy. So I'm sure there's probably better books now, but it was a really good book. It told you a little bit about structuring a joke, how to work on getting the punchline right and the punch word, things like that. Like, one of the things that's key in stand-up, of course, is you want to put the punch, the reveal of the joke, because you have the setup, right? That goes up front, obviously. And then you want the punch word to come as close to the end of the period as possible. Delay that surprise and boom, hit on that. And some other tips are for your punch word. So your setup, the setup is trying to get people to go along with an idea. You want them to kind of say, oh, I see where he's going with this. I understand, and then the punchline shatters that expectation. Bam, it comes down. It's kind of this violent interruption, and the energy has nowhere to go because you just slammed into this thought, and it just comes out as laughter. And so you want to be very concise with that punch, and if you can limit it to one word, and that one word, if it has a hard K or the hard K consonant sound, that's comedy gold. Now, when you watch stand-up comedians, you'll see how often they use a hard K in their punch word. And I think it's just because phonetically, it just makes you slam on the brakes. Like pork chop, boom, that just boom, boom. It has that punch to it. And an X works well, a Xerox, that's not a good one. But
is it bad that I spent like 3 seconds like, puh? No, chop is puh. And I was like, oh, pork. Never mind. Cuh. All right. I literally spent like 3 seconds and like, chop? He's talking about K a lot, but now he's talking about puh. All right. Whatever. Yeah. Oh, clearly.
Pork.
2 words.
It's the K in the pork at the end of pork.
Yeah.
But you're right. You bring up a good point. But you should put it should be chopped pork is better. That's how you want to end. You want to end on that hard K. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
To work on that.
Well played.
I've never known that, but now I'm going to be watching comedians and I'm going to be watching for hard Ks. They're like, oh.
Yeah, but then you got these guys, Nate Bargatze has kind of thrown everything off.
He's blown up.
It's his own style, and he doesn't tell jokes. He just wanders you through this story, and it's what's so funny and is this absurd? Is it really? Is this guy really this absurd? And he kind of tells stories about things where he's done something stupid, and it's the same kind of stupidity we all do, so we can totally relate to it. And he's also being vulnerable. That's it. Comedy is the best way to be vulnerable. To be when you're going to share something personal, and that's how we got it. After COVID, we weren't really connecting that authentically.
Yeah.
Before COVID, I think COVID has kind of put us in this bubble where we're all anxious about whether it's losing our job or our kid getting COVID or whatever it is. There's just so much anxiety.
Definitely.
And I think comedy now is so much more important. Like I have been doing a lot more work. Like when people come back in from COVID in the corporate world, like I'll do some work for CEOs who are saying, hey, we got our all hands meeting, our first one from people coming back. So can you write like a top 10 list or a comedy monologue for me? We want to make like a late night format for our all hands meeting. And it's great. And the thing is, it doesn't, for somebody who knows how to write comedy, it doesn't take too much to put it together and create some simple graphics. So it really creates this experience for people. And man, with morale so low in so many
Mm,
places, uh, people are so grateful for or the companies, when the executives say, look, we're going to invest in making you laugh.
mm.
And they're so ready for it. I mean, they're so ready for it and they're so grateful for it. And man, this is a perfect time for that kind of thing.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting, and especially with the corporate sort of humor that you're doing, is a lot of stand-up comedians, for example, they only have just a microphone and themselves. But corporate stuff, there's a PowerPoint. You want to like make some slides and throw them up there, so that gives you even more options to work with
Yeah.
in terms of visual aids to help out with that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The thing about, I love doing slides, man. I just love it. And the thing about that is, it's just easier to, you want to get to the punch,
Mm,
has to be quick and, sharp, a really hard left turn kind of thing. And when you just click on an image and that's the punchline,
yeah.
it's so much faster than even saying a word. And
Yeah.
your mind processes an image like 30,000 times faster than verbal communication. So that helps you. But one of the most important things is you really eliminate or you come pretty close to eliminating any chance of miscommunication.
Yeah.
So one challenge with I've had this before with and a lot of comedians will work on this. They'll have the punchline and it doesn't really land. And they're thinking, well, I got the wrong synonym for this word. I got to go find something different. This is not the right word. And you go through it and make sure the word really captures the meaning that you want people to go to. And you know what, some word may mean, like I had a friend, she was speaking at a conference and she made some joke, just offhanded joke about, hey, that will get you to, you can go this way downtown and find the subway or a subway. And she was making a joke about the sandwich shop,
Mm,
but people in New York went to thinking, oh yeah, the train. So the thing is, if you land on a photo, there's no, we know we're not talking about a hoagie, 6-inch hoagie.
yeah. Less
You're talking
nuance
about,
there.
that's right, exactly. So I love doing that, and I've used it in clubs before too. I did this at Caroline's on Broadway.
Mm.
I was doing a parody. This was fun, man. I was doing a parody on, but it bombed. It really did. I was doing a parody on.
It was terrible, but I did
It was
it. It was
terrible.
great.
No, the material was solid. It was a bit I was doing on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was
Mm,
a PowerPoint parody, and man, it never missed. Whenever I do it in a corporate crowd, people just loved it. And I think at first people loved it because they were like, I've sat through so many stupid PowerPoint presentations, but this is when I get to laugh. I think it was all this pent up
mm.
laughter from the hours of dumb PowerPoint meetings they said in, because people laughed a lot more than they should have. And anyway, when I did this at Caroline's, oh man, it did not work at all. First of all, we were waiting. The show before us was like, it ran an hour late. And so everybody had been waiting in line outside to get in for an hour. They put me on first to set up the projector. This is not when people had projectors in the club,
No, you
and
got to bring
so
your own.
that took, and I did. I had a little, suitcase on wheels, and that took another 15 minutes to set up, and
Mm,
everybody was so irritated. And I got up there and I was wearing a suit, with a tie and a full suit, playing this, inept manager. And I remember getting out on stage, and this woman looks at me, and the way she's looking at me, I knew immediately. I said, "Man, she sees me as her boss." It was not a
yeah.
corporate crowd at all. This was a cut across America coming to see comedians.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, this is not going to go well.
The wrong
So
crowd.
the
No.
wrong crowd. But that's something to think about with all of your audiences, no matter what you're doing, is
Mm,
to think about your audience, have some empathy for them, and just think how you might come across, even if it's not your
mm.
intent. What's going to be my impact of saying this or showing up this way?
Yeah, that's good. That's real good. I don't know. You weren't in a suit whenever we met. I think I was in a suit. I think
I wasn't in the suit.
they made us dress up like
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, like for like we'd have to go to like meet different companies, and they're like, okay, put on your sport coat suit and everything like that. And it's I actually 2 months ago had to film a black tie wedding, and I had to get out that suit for the first time since 2011. And
yes.
The jacket still fit, the pants.
Pants
did not fit. Just saying that right now. It's been a few years.
Yes. I always wear jeans now. I hardly ever wear an actual suit, and Smart. I have to wear jeans because they don't fit anymore.
Very smart. Oh man. Well, I think that's really, really good. I think I have a lot to work with. I started like writing down like the books you were saying, and I'm like, oh, I'm recording this right. Why am I can just listen to it back whenever I'm editing. But also cool. Now I can just have it on my phone already. Awesome.
Yeah, but you can, that's a good bit right there. That's a funny bit of just, just what you just said. I'm writing this down, and then that's it's the same kind of Nate Bargatze thing, just not really thinking something through. And then so I talked about heightening and exaggerating, so you show yourself, furiously jotting down notes, and then somebody says, aren't you recording this? And you're, oh, yeah. And then you cut to the next guest, and maybe it's, someone with a cooking show, and they're giving you a recipe, and you're writing down again, half a cup of chicken broth. Same thing happens. And then you just tighten it to somebody, you have a scientist on next who's listing off all this, 7-syllable words and that kind of thing. And you're furiously, you still don't get it. And you're going through all this pain. But that's that idea of heightening, how do I make this idea? Once I find my pain point and this aggravation I had on the Zoom call, how do I exaggerate this to the point of being absurd? Yeah.
Absurdity. I like that. I'm going to have to try to
good, man.
Try to lean into that. I like that.
Yes. And when you start off and write, when you start writing this stuff, man, you're going to think, oh, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. And so your first thought, you got that inner critic going, and your first thought is that's not good. But that's exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for absurdity. And it takes time to get used to it, but you'll figure it out.
All right. Out of left field here. Are you running now? You're doing running, aren't you? Aren't you doing running?
I started running. You know what? That happened. Thank goodness. Back in 2015, I started going through a divorce, and that it was finalized in 2016.
That's why you don't need the vow renewal. Okay, cool.
Yes. I should have said that earlier. Yes.
That's okay. You didn't preface that like in the intro, like, hey, my name's Tim, I'm divorced, so please don't make any jokes about that. Like, oh crap. You gotta warn me right at the start. Huge life change. No.
Can we start over? Let's start over.
It's all your fault. That's what I'm saying. Whole new podcast. It was 53 minutes in, just cut it, start over again. It's fine.
That's what my ex-wife said, as a matter of fact. Interesting. You gotta listen, this is something, Matt, I've learned it's helpful to joke about. Matt, it was 2016 we got divorced, and I'm still I get invited to go back to court to bicker over a $3 receipt. And I'm not kidding. That came up yesterday in front of a judge on a Zoom call, a $3 receipt.
And they're like, sir, this is this green coffee house mug that you purchased for $3. And
she wants it back. She wants it now.
She wants the cut back.
She wants half of it.
Half that mug. Yeah. Cut that mug in half. Get it. She wants the handle. There you go.
Oh my goodness, man!
Amazing.
But it's it's good to laugh at these things because it can be. Back to running. I was so depressed going through all this. I was so depressed at the beginning, and one of my buddies says he'd been through 2 divorces, and he said, "Hey man, why don't you come out and run with us?"
He was an expert at that point. He's like,
he was an expert.
I know exactly what to do. You need to run.
You know what? But he really did. He really did. And so he knew exactly what was going on. He'd been where I had been in this experience, and he said, "Come out and run." Now this is it's in Connecticut, where I live. You know where Connecticut is?
I've heard of that. I've heard of
Vaguely.
it. Yes.
Vaguely. So it's
Extremely
like, this is in February, Matt. It's like minus 17, you know?
Yeah, that ain't Texas. Texas ain't like that.
Mm-mm. So we meet up at the track at the high school at 5:45 in the morning to go run. In the winter,
The track? Not even like cross country where you like get like a different view. It's just, let's just do loops.
That's what we do. That's what we do. And I got tired of that. So now I run with these guys. We do trail running.
Yeah.
And we meet every Thursday morning. It used to be Tuesday, Thursday. It's Tuesday, Thursday now.
That's where I've seen a lot of your posts. It's been like you very sweaty, like a selfie of you, like there's just someone running, and I'm like, oh, okay. Or I gotta just tell you right now, okay? Like I wasn't gonna bring this up, but I just thought of it and all. You have these some of your stories are like some of the most like dad stories that I've seen. What I mean by that is just like I can tell you just like hold the phone, like here comes somebody running, there they go, and I'm like, okay, like just a random story. Like, what's Tim doing? Tim's some race thing. All right, like no context, just somebody running. I'm like, all right, like, and I know you have other followers that are like, yeah, this is why I'm following Tim to see the running, but it's not. I'm just confused. But
yes,
it's great, great stuff.
No, I do realize I've realized that, and so I'm starting a new YouTube channel on something. It's actually more about this kind, and I'm working on a book on this kind of stuff that we talked about, like how do you parent in tough times? Yeah. So, but you're right. I mean, I realize what I have up on Reels is it's just random and all over the place. But you know what? I don't care. I should care.
It's fine.
But I don't care. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
I feel like
that's how I got into running. That's why. And I will tell you, man, if anybody's out there and you're going through a divorce, or still, even if you're like 5 years on the other side of a divorce, it's still painful. And so reach out to your friends who are divorced, but also get together and go walk with somebody. Just go for a walk somewhere.
Don't even have to run. Just walking is acceptable. Yeah,
that's exactly right, man. Just get outdoors. Well, not in Texas. You don't want to get outdoors. Do mall walking in Texas.
We don't do that. Yeah,
I couldn't live in Texas again. I don't think.
See, I'd love to move back. There's another older person reference there. Mall walking. That's what.
Yes, that's right.
My grandma used to do that. But
yeah,
I know no young people, because are there malls even left? I haven't been to a mall in years. Like mall? Oh, like is that a pre-COVID thing? I don't know what that is. Like Amazon, but you just walk. You have to walk around.
Crazy we have them in Connecticut. Yeah, it's like we have them in Connecticut. They're the only ones left in Connecticut. Yeah,
that makes sense. That's why I haven't. See, it's not a Texas thing. We have Buc-ee's here. We could walk around Buc-ee's.
Oh, Buc-ee's.
That would actually work. It's big enough. You could do a loop. Do some Buc-ee's loops. Actually,
they just opened a new one. I think it's 70,000 square feet in North Carolina. They had a big launch like 2 weeks ago.
I saw that. So they were bragging like, we're the biggest now. But then Texas, they announced like, hey, don't worry. It's 74,000 square feet in South Carolina, but don't you worry. Like we got 75,000 square feet coming back in Texas. And I'm like, it's a gas station. Okay.
Right. But it's also at a really small town, like in Texas. The one, I was like, how are they going to get that? Do you remember this? Do you remember where it's in like a Colleen or something like that?
There's a lot of them in smaller towns, but you just drive through and there's like a nice stopping.
That's right. As long as it's off of an interstate, you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I miss Buc-ee's.
It's quality. Next time you come down, we can hang out.
You want to meet at Buc-ee's?
Okay.
Great. We'll go have some brisket.
We'll do a Buc-ee's meetup. Yes.
Okay.
Oh man. I will say, like, because my wife is about to be furiously texting me like, are you done? You said an hour. And I'm like, well, yes, honey, love you. Yes. I say this is someone that's still married and has to, be loving and caring. I will say,
it's a lot easier on this side of things.
Tim's like, it's cutting deep, but it's true, man. Okay. No, I've talked to Rachel about, I've told Rachel this, I've told other friends of mine too. Like I'm 36 now. I'm in my mid 30s, and I feel like your mid 30s is where all your friends are either like having their third child, or they're just going to be like single forever, or they're dying, or they're getting divorced. It's just like, this is the life stage I'm at where, so I'm dealing with that of like friends of mine that are going through divorces, but it's like, they're all finding the comedy in it almost. Like a lot of them are like the ones that are doing well have found the humor in it, and I can joke with them about it. And I'm like, well, that's good. At least you can joke about it, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's so important, man. That's so important. But that's good. Keep joking with them. Keep joking with them.
Even if they're crying, you just got to keep laying it on. They'll love it. They love it. No.
Yeah. I'm not into the tears thing. Just tell them that. Like, look, I don't want to be. I don't want you bringing me down. I don't mind being here at your house and drinking your wine, but don't bring me down. So I'm just going to go watch some Nate Bargatze.
Yeah, that's classic right there. Classic. Okay, so to wrap things up, then you've got a book you're working on. You're working on a YouTube channel and all. Because you initially had reached out to me. You're like, I'm doing some YouTube stuff. You want to talk? And I was like, all right. I don't know what that means, but yes, it's a broad thing, YouTube. So
I don't know what it means either, but I'm working on it. Yeah.
And so what's this book about then, or what you're thinking about?
So one of there's two different ideas, but one of them is around, well, it'll be two books actually. One of them is around just parenting ideas when you're divorced, because it's tough.
Yeah.
But it's parenting, like what I said about my son, the whole sarcastic thing. Just, I hear people. Yeah. It just makes life a lot easier if you're willing to joke about it and not pick your battles and just make sure your kids only need one thing from you. And that's to know they're loved unconditionally. And that will never change. That's all you have to do. And everything else will fill it. You'll take care of the food. All that stuff will come into play. That's even in college. That's all you need for the kid. I mean, you got to pay tuition bills, but they just need to know that they're just loved by you.
I got a few years before that to worry about that, but
you don't have to do anything right now. Just just make sure they don't crash into anything. You're fine. I'm doing that now as my son's almost 16.
My youngest was eating dirt yesterday. We have a flower planter in the front room, and she's crawling around, and she's like, "Ooh, a little snack." And I look over, and it looks like she's got chocolate around her lips. And I was like, "Well, that's just dirt, kid." Okay, so cleaned her off. She's fine. But it's just that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Nice. I'm so glad I'm not in that phase anymore.
It's a phase. It's a fun phase. Let me tell you. What is sleep? I don't know. It's fine. Cool. Well, dude, super great catching up. I feel like this was, if I had just called you out of the blue and asked to talk to you for an hour, you'd be like, this is weird, but okay. And it would have been exactly this conversation, just slightly weirder.
Yes,
but now
that's right.
Everybody gets to hear it. So
yay. Yay, everybody.